So I'm guessing that you guys came to this session to learn about story planning, and I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to run a little bit through AI, but I really want to focus on not just how I use AI. I want to tell you a little bit about the process for the story planning part of it as well. So we're going to go through very quickly. I'm going to run through some slides quickly because I want to get to the fun bit, which is where we pull up ChatGPT and make some story happen. But I want to talk a little bit about the evolution of storytelling and then developing your story with AI. There will be a Q&A period. Right now, show of hands, who thinks they're going to have a question? Okay, so I'm going to give you 1 minute for questions, and I'll talk the rest of the time. So hi, everybody. My name is Melle Amade Melkumian. I publish fiction under the name Melle Amade, which is also my public name and my LinkedIn name. And when I started publishing nonfiction, I used my married name, which is Melkumian. I've been working in technology as a marketing director for the last 25 years. I've worked at companies like NASA and Northrop Grumman and Hewlett Packard, and I was working in an AI company when ChatGPT came out, and we were sitting in a bar and someone showed it to me and I was like, I'm quitting my job. And someone says like, hey, is AI gonna put you out of work? And I'm like, I frickin' hope so. Because it's like, if you've written press releases for 20 years, you don't want to write another press release. And as authors, there's some stuff in writing. I don't think that it needs to be rote. I don't think it's boring, but if we can get a little boost, if we can have ChatGPT, and I'm just going to talk ChatGPT mostly today because we'll get into that in a bit, but if you can have a little writing buddy who's, supporting you or some days kicking you in the butt or doing those things to help get your stories out there, then I'm going to take that opportunity. I've published since 2016 as an indie publisher, and obviously I'm an AI enthusiast. So I'm not going to read these slides. I'm just going to talk about these concepts. If you want to take pictures of the slides, please feel free. The main thing I want to talk about is that we get in this debate, or you hear this argument about AI this and AI that, and the reality is AI is a huge field. The companies I was working in are using AI and machine learning and to drive technology that's going into outer space. We are talking about this little red dot in the center that's generative AI. And generative AI, the large language models, were made to write like people. That was the whole purpose of having them created. So we also end up seeing them in images. But so when we actually talk AI, we're not really talking AI. It should be story planning with generative AI. And it's this tiny part of the field. And the reason why I like to point this out is because I don't think there's an argument around AI in the creative space or in the world. AI is, and it will stay there. As an example, I will go into my house and my fridge is AI enabled. It has 6 cameras inside. It takes photos of the food inside my fridge. It then monitors what I take out of my fridge. It tells me on this display screen on the front of my fridge what I just took out. It creates a shopping list, and it will order from Amazon Fresh what I'm short of in my fridge, and it'll be delivered to my door. That is AI. So when we talk about what we're doing with AI, it's just generative AI, and we're just letting it help us write our stories. So there's a big debate around AI and copyright, and the government brought a lot of people into DC, and they said, what about copyright, and what does it mean to the creative world? I really want to step away from the mic and walk around, but... Oh, I can. Does this work? Oh, good. Okay, great. I'm much more comfortable this way. Okay, so the fair use. So these are the 4 main, I just boiled everything down for you in 4 points. So fair use is basically, they're saying that the copyright that's held, it can reasonably be used for public benefit. They look for economic impact. And what was really interesting there is Grimes created an app that allows you to take some of her music and turn it into AI music on your own. So she was like, before someone steals my music, I'm just going to create the app to allow that to happen. Did it have any financial impact on her music sales? No. So that was a plus towards AI. They were like, it's not really impacting how much the original artist is selling. This is just a single use case. They look at new licensing models. So one of the things they're saying is that it's not going to be the same licensing models. In the same way that indie publishing changed the face of traditional publishing, the same thing will happen because of AI. And then the last thing to think about here is the international implications. Do you know what Japan says about AI? We don't mind, you can use it everywhere, copyright doesn't matter. The whole country. So if you're publishing in multiple markets or different places, you also want to think about what are their laws and rules around AI. Okay, so I just wanted to touch a little bit on, those are a lot of the questions that I get asked. The storytelling methods. The reason why I bring this up is I think we've all thought about it. AI is storytelling and it's changing. Originally, stories were told around the fireplace to groups of people. That is what we do. We just do it via a computer now. It's gone through, writing was invented, then the printing press, then the digital revolution, so we ended up having them, indie publishing, and today this is just another step, and it's happening right now. You are witnesses, and if you're active, you will be involved in this transition. I have a 12 and 13-year-old kid, and they're not going to care if it was written by AI or not if they're entertained. So I think it's really important to really look at how we tell stories. And the other thing that I want to say is I personally am an oral storyteller. In other words, I dictate my novels, and I've been doing that for 7 years. I dictate 50,000 words in 5 days, and that's how I published my books and had a full-time job as well. So you're going to see a little bit more about my process, but I really believe in the magic of oral storytelling. And some people believe in the magic of press a button and a book comes out, and that's their goal. And other people think like, well, I just want to do a little bit of story planning. AI is a tool that will support you however you want to be supported in building your books and telling your stories. It's not going to do it's not going to do the same thing for everybody. And so that's where your creativity and freedom is supported. So let me check the time. We're doing fine. Okay, so complexity and volume. In today's market, if you want to make money, and we're all here to learn how do you make money from publishing, AI is going to really support you in that. Let's say you want to start a pen name and you want to write sweet romance and you have paranormal romance already. They still can't be the same thing. So AI is going to allow you to get that story out there in a different genre. It's going to allow you to publish an audiobook and a digital book at the same time. You're going to be able to, and this bit here, the audience engagement. People say that AI is boring and that it's, one of the arguments I hear sometimes is that it's just generating, I'm not thinking of the word I heard yesterday, but basically it's regenerating garbage, right? But the reality is if you use your AI correctly, and I'm doing a marketing and publishing talk tomorrow where we talk about doing market research, deep market research into your genre and finding out what do readers like about your genre, what are they saying about in your genre. So instead of having to sit on Goodreads and read all the reviews that somebody's written on different books in your genre, you can go into AI and ask it to scrape Goodreads for the reviews and tell you what are readers of horror books, talking the most about on the most popular books in Goodreads, and it will figure that out for you and give you back a succinct answer, and you'll understand your market better. So it saves you a lot of time. And the reason why I'm bringing this to you as authors is that I think it's really important. This is what businesses are doing all over the world in every facet of everything you buy today as a consumer. And so it's only natural that we would also use it in our businesses of writing. You can do data-driven planning, and then it can obviously accelerate the story development process, and that's really what we're going to drive into today. I want to get into some of the meat of what we're going to be creating in today's story, in today's course, webinar. What are we doing? We're doing a talk, presentation, panel. Okay, so AI as a creative partner in storytelling. This is how I use AI. I have written various fiction books with AI. I have written nonfiction books with AI, so that's AI-generated work. I actually prefer, for my process, AI-assisted books. And some people are pushing to get AI-generated. That's their goal, because their minds work differently than mine, specifically. Some people like to get a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of puzzle pieces, and put that puzzle together, and they want to have all that. I like having a general outline and then pantsing the rest of my work. So raise your hand if you are a plotter. Okay, put your hands down. Now raise your hands if you're a pantser. Okay, and raise your hand if you're hybrid, like the werewolf vampire right there. Right, so, and you know, it's funny because I've done it both ways. I find if I pants a whole book, it sucks when I'm done with it. And then I have to take the puzzle pieces and try to move it around and try to figure out what story I was trying to tell. And that's what happens a lot of times when you first generate your first AI book, completely using AI, is that you end up with a lot of the puzzle pieces and it's hard to put it around. But the way that I have found is I like to have a skeleton, and then I like to walk around my house or walk around my yard or walk in my neighborhood and dictate, and I dictate into this crappy little app on my phone. It cost me like $4.50 7 years ago. And that's how I write my books. I actually use the dictation mechanism within the phone to do that. Then I'm just going to tell you the next step in that process. But then I take everything that I dictated and I put it into ChatGPT and ask it to clean it up. So I used to have a dictation editor who I would send it to, and they would, you know, we would turn it around in like 2 days. So there was a process there that would allow me to write a 50,000 word book that was edited in 3 weeks. Now I can do it in 5 days. You can, of course, do the data-driven insights with machine learning, and that really helps you to understand your audience better and understand what they like to read more. So the key benefits of AI for authors, and this is crazy because this is the argument people have against it, is I believe it boosts originality. And I was explaining the other day on the panel, and some of you might have heard that, how when I look at the output from AI, and I'm using the term AI, I mean ChatGPT in this specific case, you know, I'll ask it for, I'm not going to think of a clever example, so I'm like, I want a different color of a horse. And it's like, okay, how about a purple horse? And I'm like, well, that's a little too far out there. And so I ask it for different other colors. And so it starts going like mustard yellow, chameleon yellow, or chamomile yellow. And I'm thinking like, oh, that's interesting. You know, I'm reading the responses and I'm thinking, oh, it's putting a flower in there. Maybe that's an interesting way for me to describe a particular color. But then I think, no, forest green, that's the color I want my horse. So then I color my horse forest green, and I'm being really basic in my explanations of this. It's much more clever when you're using the tool. But the reason why I want to bring that out is that before I used the tool, I was thinking brown, white, or black. The tool suggested purple. I asked the tool to be a little more clever, and it came up with, you know, chamomile yellow, and that gave me forest green. And so the ultimate answer is coming from me, and it's my originality at the end of the day. And that's why I think of ChatGPT as my writing buddy. It absolutely saves time. I'm going to show you how in just a second. I love the consistency of using it to plot things out. I can plot out an entire series and arc and get the whole series and arc right and not forget the character that was in the first half of the first book that everybody loved, who dropped out suddenly and was never seen again. So it allows me to do that. It allows me to pick up themes and nuances that maybe I forgot about. It allows me to put all that into place before I write a single word. It also offers tailored advice. I do this It'll give you feedback on your work. You can put it in and say, hey, what sucks about this? And it'll be like, everything. And you'll be like, that's not nice. But the funny thing is like, it's really polite. And it's, you know, I'm not. I'm like, that sucked. I want something better. And I'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry. That's why we get along. Okay. Now I'm going to need my hands. So I wanted to give you an idea of how I came across developing a story with AI. And what you're seeing is the covers of two, I call them world-building Bibles, and I build them before I write a single word in the series. I'm going to actually show you the real thing here, because I think it's important to understand where I'm coming from. Everybody who uses AI, there's not one right way to do this. And so I wanted, as an author, talking to authors, I just wanted to show you my precise process. So this was a series that I wrote with Jamie Cullican, who's also my business partner. Our company's AI4CES. We do teach courses on, you know, we came out with the first AI for Authors course, and we love using AI and developing projects. So in this table of contents, you'll see that, can you see that? I can't see that. Okay. So you can see that we've got the history, the magical creatures, the different beings that are going to be in the world, then the key characters, then we've got the books. Now, as you go down into the document, I wrote out the history. Now, I do this in 5 days. This is my original process. So I'd write out the history of the world, then the different magical creatures, then the beings, then I'd put in pictures because they were interesting. And then I'd start writing their powers, their physical characteristics, temperament, mating, always of interest. I write romance, by the way. Knowledge, politics, habitat work, blah, blah, blah. Secret. What is the secret? So all of these things I want to know before I start plotting, before I start doing anything. So I spend a bit of time doing this, and then I go through the different characters. I'm trying to get to 1 page of this, so the ladies will know why when we get there. It's not this one. Okay, so I do that with all of the different types of beings. Because I write fantasy, the world gets pretty complex. This one has mermaids, it has trolls, it has dwarves and sprites. So I really want to make sure ignore the fact that characters is spelled wrong, but let's just take a moment to enjoy this reverse harem character page. So I like to know what I'm getting into before I start writing the words. Okay, then, I know, right? Okay, so then we've got the characters. Now, and I'm going to get out of this document in a second, but I want to try to color of eyes. So no longer do you have to go back and read your books to figure out what color their eyes were, because you knew before you started writing the book. I actually print these documents out and they sit next to me as I write and even as I dictate, and I'll be like, her violet eyes were staring at him. Okay, so talents, hair, skin, facial features, so all the things, right? Now so do you guys get this document? Okay, so then I've got more. I won't go through more, but I'll give you an idea that they exist. Okay, so that's where I was when AI came out. I was like, okay, I do these things, and I want to do the same thing. So that is how I story plan. That grows into, when I write the stories about, when I write the world building documents, I will suddenly think like in Blood Angel, there was a murder. So I actually write like 2 or 3 pages on exactly what happened with the murder so that I know before I get into the story. And that's where I'm not quite a pantser. Things will come up as I'm dictating, but I want to know what actually happened at the time because it helps me bake things into the story. So one of the reasons why this is the latest series I wrote. It's called Cougar Creek Coven. It's about middle-aged women and younger men. My husband is 10 years younger than me, so I speak from experience. So these are some of the reasons why I think AI is really supportive in series planning. It allows you for seamless continuity. I'm not going to read all the details on this. the arc management. How many of you are working with your character and you get them this far in the arc and you're like, I forgot where this was going to go. I forgot where they were in book 2. I'm at book 4 and I need to read the whole first 3 books in my series to figure out what happens next. I don't do that. I do it before I write book 1. Now, things do change, and I do have pen and paper, and I take some notes as I'm going and I add it back in. It allows you to expand the worlds that you're creating in. Let's say, like Cougar Creek Coven now has a spin-off series. It's Cowboy Mafia, think Yellowstone with dragons. I know, right? I'm like loving that. And that kind of came up as I was just talking to ChatGPT one day, going like, Chat knows about, okay, I call him Zane, he's a friend of mine. So he knows about Cougar Creek Coven, and I was like, what's something else we can do in this world? And we started talking about that, and that's how we ended up with this series. It can link plot points, help you with timeline synchronization, and build out on the themes. Now that's great, you say, but I've worked in ChatGPT and all I'm getting is a long string of information, so how the heck do I organize all this stuff? I personally use OneNote. You can use anything you want to use. You can use Scrivener, you can use Word, you can use any tool that works for you that you're comfortable with. I'm going to show you how I organize that as well. Okay. So I wasn't sure if chat would work for us, so I created one in advance, but we're not going to use that. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And we're going to build a story. I was talking a little bit about OneNote. I want to show you this. I basically build folders and files, and I work within OneNote. So I do all my brainstorming with quick notes, like when I'm like, I might want to write a book about a dragon on Mars. So I go to ChatGPT and I'm like, hey, what would we do in a dragon on Mars story? And then it'll spit something out and I'll drop it in my quick notes. And that's how I start brainstorming and formulating an idea. I won't go through every one of these sections right now. You'll see as I build out on ChatGPT kind of how that works. But as you go down, you start dropping in the character information and it becomes the Bible that I showed you beforehand that I did in Word. I'm now doing it in OneNote using content that I get from ChatGPT that I then edit in OneNote to massage it to exactly what I want. So, one thing that I wanted to do, I created a story here, but we're going to start a new one. Does anyone want me to go through the basics of ChatGPT? Sweet. Okay. So can somebody shout out some character ideas? What we're going to do is we're going to start with character, because what does every great story start with? Yeah, exactly. So give me I don't care what you write, give me a character. Astronaut. Okay, an astronaut. Can somebody add something to the astronaut? Obsessive. Ooh, obsessive. Okay. Side powers. Okay, we're good. Okay, obsessive. What was the word? Claustrophobic. Claustrophobic. Psychic powers. Psychic. I think my fingers are numb. They're not working. Psychic powers. Astronaut. Okay. So we've got the core of what we're thinking about. We've done some brainstorming. We've done our market research. We're like, this is going to be #1 in Amazon. Let's do it. Okay, so what I've done for you in the slide deck is I've just given you some of my prompts and some of my tools. You can change any of this that you want. So this is what I like to know about my characters. Maybe you like to know something different, and I think you'll get the PDF, and I think you can take it off the PDF, so I hope so, because it's easier than photographing and typing. But I want you to act as a best-selling indie author. That's in brackets because that's what I like. You might be, I want you to act as a best-selling author's assistant. You can have it act as anything that you want it to act as, a publisher, an editor, and develop this is werewolf-witch hybrid. We're going to put in our astronaut in there instead. character, and then please clarify all of the following details. So I'm going to take this little bit that I typed over here, and I'm going to put it on the slide in these brackets. Then I'm going to remove the brackets. The brackets are just there so you know where you have to fill in the blanks. I'm a big believer in ChatGPT. I don't like tools that do the prompt for me because I like to tease prompts and play with them a little bit and massage them, and I'll show you how I do that in a bit. Okay, then we're going to take the prompt, the top part, because it's slides. It's two different sections. So, okay, we're putting that in there. Then we're going to tell it all the details we want to know about it. And we're dropping that in here, I think. No, we're not. Okay, and then we're going to see if it works. Last night I was in my room and I was playing around with it, and it was like, you're not authorized to use this. And I'm like, this is not going to work tomorrow. Okay, so here we go. Oh, it's a girl. Yes! Italian-American bisexual. See, now I wouldn't have thought of that on my own. Like, so I worked at NASA, right? And so the astronauts I know, they're not women. Shocker, I know. So we get the education, we start getting the physical traits, we start getting the psychology, introspective, determined, slightly obsessive. So maybe I want to change that. I want to be like completely obsessive. You know, so I will change that in OneNote. I pull this out and then I go through and I read it carefully, and I'm like, morality, utilitarian with strong sense of duty, or maybe shades of gray. I don't know. But I can go in and change those things, but now I'm starting to get a few ideas. So a lot of times when I read these things, I'm like, okay, this is good. Introverted, prefers deep conversations with a few rather than small talk with many. One thing I want to tell you about is as you work with this tool, you have to read the output. You have to absorb it. You have to let it engage with the synapses in your own brain. You have to have that magic spark that then creates a third thing. So there's ChatGPT, there's your brain not with ChatGPT, and then there's this third thing, and that's what you create separate with ChatGPT. But there's a lot of these basic things that are in here. I don't have time to read it all right now. But close to her mother, estranged from her father. Daddy issues, I like it. A fellow astronaut she lost to a mission accident. Ooh, so she's got trauma. So these are all things, now I've quickly done this, and it goes on and on. Roll, she's the protagonist. Her psychic prediction saves the crew, leading to a mission that could change humanity's understanding of the universe. So I'm going to dig into these things. But I'm not going to read them all to you right now. I'm just giving you an idea of how you can use this tool. What I want to do now, I've got a character structure. Let's say I've taken it out of OneNote, I've added it up, it's the character I want her to be. I'm kind of already in love with her right now anyhow. But I'm going to now go to the world building. I have a character. Now, where does she live? What does she do? What goes on with this? So now the prompts get really simple. Using that character, develop the world and setting that they are living in. Include the following items. We're going to get geography, inhabitants, societies, arts and cultures, alliances and rivalry, technology, magic interaction, etc. Obviously, how many of you have your own world building toolkits? Okay, a few of you do. I'm seeing some head nods. And actually, I should probably say, how many of you write fantasy? Okay, so you should all have world building toolkits. It's a great way to dig deep and know the fantasy world. And I know everyone has different methods, whether you have an actual toolkit or not. You have ways of knowing where your characters are acting. The world is a patchwork of biomes, from the lush, oxygen-rich forests of terra firma to the stark, mineral-laden deserts of Ferrum sands. Great, we are in outer space. So now we've got the different inhabitants. So there's things here, species, a diverse ecosystem of both carbon and silicon-based life forms. I don't know what they are. So I'm gonna grab this right now, and I wanna show you, this is what I call teasing the AI. I'll find something like that, and I'm like, okay, it says species, but I need to know what are the species? What are their names? All the things that I showed you in that Word document earlier, what do they look like? So I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna tease the species bit. Shows societies, the politics, it is still writing. Come on, baby. I know, so we gotta sweet talk this thing. Okay, so I'm gonna actually stop generating it because I think you get the idea, right? Okay, so we can have it create our whole systems. And again, when I say it doesn't create our systems, it creates the building blocks that we can look through to craft into the system we want. Then I'm gonna say, tell me more about the species. List them out and physical traits. If it were working, 5 seconds ago, it would have spat all of that out for us. But I'm just, stick with us. This is a method of how you can find pieces where it hasn't fleshed out the details as completely as you want it, and you can go in and get it to give you more information. I'm really not gonna be upset about this. I'm gonna show you another prompt instead. I'm gonna keep showing you prompts. Does that work? Okay, so that's a way that you tease it, and then it'll give me some species, and then I'll be like, I want a space werewolf. I'm still pushing for that, or the space dragon. So it's like you can keep digging and then go off on that loop. As you go off on that loop, you are clicking this is the clipboard copy button. You're gonna grab that and you're gonna put it over here and you're gonna have it under your characters, under your cast, under your species. So you wanna keep moving that content over into OneNote so that you are cataloging the information. So you are very organized in your approach to storytelling. It might be the whole internet. There it goes. So this one I didn't dig too deeply in yet. Oops, I'm in Midjourney now. Okay, so, ooh. This is what happened to me last night in the hotel. I wasn't doing anything naughty. Okay, so what I'm gonna do for fun is let's just open a new chat, which isn't the best thing to do, but I'm going to say, I'm gonna do this. So sometimes, well, let's give it one more shot. And while it's giving it one more shot, I'm gonna show you something here. I'm gonna grab this. And then let's see, stop generating. Okay, write me a Midjourney prompt to work for this character. Now it's not doing it because, oh, certainly, of course I'll help you. I wasn't just an asshole to you. Okay, so now it says, yes, I can do it. Here's how I'm gonna do it. And now it's giving me too much detail. So sometimes you have to tell it, look, slow your roll a little bit. So I'm gonna actually have it, oh, please.
Why would you do that? Like, is this like a pre-DALL-E NGPT thing? Or like, is there a reason why you would still generate Midjourney prompts? Like, any advantage of doing that rather than using DALL-E through ChatGPT?
It's just personal taste. This is a habit I got into with the DALL-E 3. DALL-E 3 is great. I use that as well. This is just one of the things that wow, challenges, there's a lot going on here. That is not the prompt we're going to use in Midjourney. So I'm just going to show you Midjourney, but you can absolutely use DALL-E 3. The things I'm showing you in ChatGPT, you can do in Claude. You can do in a lot of tools that are out there, and I use all these other tools. You know, I'm like that person who goes back to the same, I've been married 18 years, I go back to the same guy. You know, I go back to ChatGPT. Okay, so I didn't like the prompt, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give me a single paragraph prompt for Midjourney about Ellie. By now we should know. Okay. And so this is part of the way that, again, I build those one-note stories. Really? All right. My paragraphs are a lot shorter. Okay, so imagine, hey, raise your hand if you have used Midjourney. Okay, great. So Midjourney, it's a little funky to get into. You're looking at a Discord bot. Yes, my character name is Mazakine. Okay, so I just say imagine, and then I cut and paste that prompt in, and then we hit there, and now it's waiting to start. And to give you an idea, I'm creating character looks. So the work I was doing earlier, in case ChatGPT died on me, this is the leading male. It's hard to get bare-chested pictures out of Midjourney. I have tried. There's some things I didn't like, but here's the heroine from, I was doing like a werewolf witch story last night. Today we're doing claustrophobic astronauts. Wait, claustrophobic, psychic, Italian-American, bisexual, female astronauts. Obsessive. Okay, so now you can see we've got a real one that looks like a real picture, so you can pick any one of those. For those of you who haven't used Midjourney before, this is picture 1, 2, 3, and 4. I can say, hey, I really like the sunlight in her hair, and I can do upscale 1, and then it's going to give me a picture of that, or I can do variations of 3, which is this one, and it'll give me 4 new pictures of 3. Midjourney isn't as awesome as ChatGPT. Like, you can't tease a thread and be like, do that only slightly different. You've got to keep putting in the chats full bold. But now we've got a picture to go along with Ellie, and that's our female astronaut. We have 7.5 minutes. Do you guys have any questions?
So I'm a romance author, and I don't need quite as an extensive of a world building, but I do want to hit tropes and beats. What are your best suggestions for, like, if I say, you know, write me a bestseller that's friends to lovers, something like that, like, how best can I use it for more my story plotting than my world building? I guess writing what I just asked, okay. Yeah, like I'm saying, if I know my tropes and I know kind of what I want their careers to be, do I just write all that in as a summary and then it'll spit me out like a story plot line, kind of?
Yes, it will. And one other thing, tomorrow the course or the, whatever this is, panel. It's not, because there's nobody else with me.
Yeah.
No, tomorrow it's me alone again. Thank you, presentation. Okay. So tomorrow I'm doing marketing and publishing. I'm going to show you how you would market research. So right now it's just giving me a long list of tropes, but if I write sweet cowboy romance, they have their own tropes. If I write, you know, so I'm going to show you how I do market research for that genre, for the tropes in that genre.
So that's what I'm asking. Can I put in tropes and put in beats together, and then like it'll help me create like an outline?
Yes, you're taking, so this is story planning, that's plotting.
Okay.
So that goes to the next step. And I actually think I put in a slide. Did I leave that one in? I do the theme exploration and symbolism next, and that starts giving you the content. Then I do series planning details. This is, and you guys will get access to all of these slides, so don't worry about it, but I wanted to put as much goodness in there as possible for you. I do all of this before I get to the step you're talking about.
And where do we get this? Because it's not in our app. Like,
It will be. I submitted it this morning. Please.
Hi, my question is more about Midjourney. When that started to come about. We were hearing a lot in the author community about people cautioning us against using Mid-Journey images for book covers and things like that because it was like hard to parse who the intellectual property belonged to for something like that. Do you have an update on that or a feel for using
It's in
these
the
images?
courts. People are using Mid-Journey art for their covers. I think it's a choice. We were living in the Wild West, and I personally have not done it yet. I have, paid a lot of money for illustrated covers, but I can get a lot of really good work out of Mid-Journey, and there are, we're actually thinking of teaching a course in using Mid-Journey for marketing images, for branding images, for this type of, story planning. I personally don't use it for covers yet, but people do.
I've used it for both.
Okay, yeah.
I just released a novella last week that I was scrambling for an image. I could have done it in Photoshop, but I just ran out of time.
Yep,
So I had an image that I just made for Midjourney.
yeah.
Everybody loved it. It's on Amazon now.
There's no law against it right now.
This is a little bit of a next steps question, but you've taken your wonderful character out and you look through it and you love her, but you make a few little tweaks to her, and then you're moving on to the next stage. I understand you can go back to ChatGPT and you can continue the conversation and it will remember, but what if you've made changes and you need ChatGPT to understand you've made changes? Do you have to put all that information back in?
Yeah, so I actually work, you can only put a certain amount of information back in, so what I do is I get it boiled down. So I still build that book Bible. I'm like this really weird digital analog person who works with both. So I keep some of my notes to the side. If you're trying to AI generate a novel, you need to get everything done in there and then put it back into ChatGPT
I was just thinking about like the next step plot.
for the plot.
You just boil it down.
Boil it down.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll show you how you boil some things down to get the plot. You will see in all of my characters here on OneNote, at the very top of each character, there is a paragraph that is called, in this case, Ilara's, you can't see it but there's a prompt that describes Ilara, and it's a single paragraph that tells all about her. Okay, next question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could speak to two concerns that I keep hearing about use of ChatGPT. And one is that there's kind of a finite access, it's got finite access to information, so that any output is going to be very similar. So that means if this gentleman uses the prompts and this woman uses the prompts and I use the prompts, because the information is finite, we're all going to end up with very similar stories. So that's one concern. And then the second is regarding plagiarism. I keep hearing that all the content is plagiarized. I don't know if it's true, but could you speak to both?
So yeah, the first one is you're going to get the same content if you're all doing an obsessive, claustrophobic, psychic astronaut in your prompt. But the chances are you aren't. So this is why I have the notes section in my OneNote where I brainstorm different things that I care about, that I want to write about. Like one of the books that I'm getting started on writing is actually going to be a literary book, and it's a story of my mother's 8 years in a prisoner of war camp in World War II in Indonesia as a child. I don't think anyone in here is writing that, right? Right. And I'm not, I can't write that with ChatGPT, but I can use it to get some of that information. So like the World War II history and things like that. In terms of plagiarism, it is a generative language platform. It is predicting the next word. It should not be repeating something, right? It shouldn't be taking a wholesale chunk of text. It should be discerning what the next word should be based on everything that it knows. So I don't believe that it plagiarizes, and I've never seen an indication of it.
I found that ChatGPT is amazing with translations into a language that I know.
I know the question. Let me answer it because we're running out of time. So if you want to translate into German or French or English, you can put your text into ChatGPT, 300 words at a time, ask it to translate into that language. Just make sure that you get a native speaker to read the content after it comes back out. I know authors publishing in German, they've cut down their editing expenses a lot. Is
And
that?
then you just say translated by, my name or by AI.
You would say, yeah, translate. Oh, I wouldn't even admit it. I don't care. No one
Yeah.
needs to know what I do. They don't ask me if I wrote by pencil or dictated my novel. How I write is my business. We are actually out of time. You guys can see me after the talk, but I'd like to thank you all so much for letting me share with you.